Hello everyone. Today we're going to draft the introduction for our information text. We're very much in the ideas and content trade of writing today, particularly looking at content. We're looking at how we really pull our ideas together from our research to craft our introduction. Before we start, I'd like you to remember two things that you learn when drafting the introduction to the previous information text that you did about a familiar topic. Those two things were that in an introduction, you should write an opening statement that really grabs the reader's attention by using tone and that states what your text is going to be about. The second thing that you did was you included an interesting or fun fact to really engage the reader. Because we're now writing about a topic that we're researching, we're going to up-level our introduction this time around. We're not just going to include a fun or interesting fact. You can do that if you want. But more importantly, you're going to include any important or essential background information that you feel the reader needs to know right from the outset of your text, even before they read your first paragraph. So let's get started. To craft my opening statement, I think, how am I going to engage the reader in my topic? To do that, I go back to the three questions that I used to guide my research. How do rays behave? What is their habitat? And how does its appearance help it survive? When I reflect on each of those questions in turn, some observations about the creature spring to mind. Rays are really actually quite friendly. Their habitat can be quite harsh. They're forever being picked up by fishing trawlers and thrown back out. However, they are a very resilient creature. And its appearance, well, it's just absolutely beautiful with the markings on its skin. Friendly, resilient, beautiful. They're three things that I would like the reader to start thinking about straight away when they read about my animal. So I'm going to include them in my introduction to engage the reader. What else will I include? That's right, my background information. To get the essential or important information that my reader needs to know, I go back to my gathering grid. On my gathering grid, I look at the row of background information. I'm not going to use everything that I wrote down. I'm just going to pick and choose what I think the reader needs to know straight up. When you're talking about an animal, it's always really good to include the scientific name and any alternate names that the animal is known by. So I highlight that in my grid. I also think that it's really important that the reader get their head around the fact that this animal is harmless, straight up. So I'm going to include that as well. Now I'd like an interesting fact. And I think the fact that it evolved from flat-headed sharks over 200 million years ago, that's pretty cool. A ray that actually used to be a shark. So I'm going to include that in my introduction as well. And so I write, beautiful, resilient and even friendly. The eastern fiddler ray is an unusual Australian animal that is sometimes called the banjo ray or by its scientific name. Have you ever wondered whether rays really are as dangerous as they look? You might be surprised to learn that even though this one evolved from flat-headed sharks over 200 million years ago, it is harmless. You can swim right up to it. When you listen to my introduction then, I wonder if you could hear me using tone. Did you hear me asking a question to the reader? Including an interesting fact? Was I using the word you when I referred to the reader? Yes, I was. Don't forget that when you craft your introduction, you might want to follow some of those tips that we talked about in the previous video that I showed you on how to use tone. It's your turn now. Go and grab your grid, read back over the background information that you've written. Think about what you want your reader to know straight up, and off you go. Enjoy your work.